Welcome to Kilda Shule's Kabbalat Shabbat service. I'm Rabbi Hillel Nagel. It was wonderful this past week on Shavuot to actually open the shul for the first time after many weeks of restrictions and isolation. It was a limited number of people, and we hope as the restrictions ease, more and more people will be able to come back to shul and we'll see you all in person. This week we'll read the parasha of Naso. Naso contains the commandment from Hashem for the priests, the Kohanim, to bless the Jewish people. And we all know the formula in Hebrew, Yevrechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. In Australia and in countries outside Israel, the priests, the Kohanim, only bless us on Yontovs, on special festivals, Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur. If you live in Israel or you're visiting in Israel, they actually give us the blessing every single day. But we also know that parents and grandparents give their children and grandchildren this blessing. Some do it every Friday night, like in our family, or on special occasions like bar mitzvahs or under the chuppah. This prayer is actually a very interesting formula because it actually contains two parts in each of the lines. We start off, Yevrechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. May Hashem bless us with wealth. But then we add v'yishmerecha. We ask Hashem to safeguard that wealth. A second part of the blessing. The next part is Ya'er Hashem panav elecha. We ask Hashem for illumination, that He illuminate Himself towards us and give us spiritual growth. But then we add another bit, v'chuneka. We ask for chein. We ask that people like us. Finally, Yisa Hashem panav elecha. We ask Hashem that He turn His face towards us and show us that He loves us, even though we sometimes sin. But then we add a bit more, v'yasem lecha shalom. We ask for peace. Why do we add on to each of the blessings? Why do we ask for a bit more? Is it not enough just to have some wealth? That ask Hashem has to safeguard it as well? Maybe it's a bit of a chutzpah to ask Hashem for that extra blessing. But the reason we need the extra parts of that blessing is that sometimes it's not enough just to have a blessing. We need to have the assurance that it will have a practical implication in our lives. Many people receive the blessing of wealth, but sometimes they lose them to silly financial decisions. They try to get richer because perhaps they're not happy with what they have. Many people have health, but they still lead a life of aggravation or jealousy and do not stop and appreciate what they actually have. Many people have wisdom or special talents, but they often let them go to waste. That's why each of the priestly blessings is followed by a safeguard, a follow-up blessing. It's nice to receive all these wonderful blessings and gifts, but we need to make sure that we are using them in a practical and good way. We need to appreciate all that we have and use them to the best of our ability and don't let them go to waste. Tonight, when we bless our children or grandchildren, or whenever the next special occasion is that we bless them, we ask that Hashem not only give them a life of wealth and of health and happiness, but that they learn to appreciate and use their blessings to the fullest. Wishing you and your families Shabbat Shalom. It's now my pleasure to hand over to Chazan Brekei, who'll lead us in Kabbalat Shabbat.
We're going to start off with Yedid Nefesh, which is in the art scroll on page 590. We're going to do the first verse. Sing along with me.
Ishtacha yaseh shalom aleinu al kol Israel al kol shtei tevel ve'imru amen ve'imru
Thank you, Corey, that was awesome. We're on page 308 in the art scroll, bottom of the first paragraph. Shir Adonai, Shir Chadash, Yolai Kulare. Page 310. Here we go, we're gonna sing together. Yismechu hashamayim, hashamayim, yismechu hashamayim, yismechu hashamayim, v'tagilare. Yiramaya, Yiramaya, hey, Yiramaya, Omedo, Yiramaya, hey, Yiramaya, Yiramaya, Omedo. Yilmechu hashamayim v'tagil haaretz, Yiramaya umelo, Yavle v'chol asher bo ad yiranenu, kol hatzeya lifnei Adonai, kiva Yivotare, yesh bo temer v'tzedek, ve'amim ve'emunato, Adonai matagel haaretz, yismechu im rabim. Amalzim. All right, everybody, page 312, top of the page, sing with me. Mizmor shir l'Adonai, shir chadash, ki niflaot asa, Hoshia lo yemino, uzero v'kodesho, ay, 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 odiya l'Adonai shuvato, לעיני גויים גילת צדקתו, זכר חסדו ואמונתו, לבית ישראל כל נפשי הארץ אל ישועת אלוהינו הריעו לאדוני כל הארץ פיצחו ורננו וזמרו דברו לאדוני בכינור וכל זמרה בחצוצרות ובקול שופר הריעו לבני אדון המלך אדוני נאי 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 Page 312. Oy Moshe V'Aaron V'chol Aaron Shule B'kol Shemo Sing with me, Page 314. Miel mole David. בסוף ירום ויחלום כל אומר כבוד אדוני למה מולי ישר ויש אדוני מלך לעולם אדוני לעמו יתרם אדוני יבורר אל עמו ושם Page 314 in the middle. גדולת ימינך, ימינך, תתיר צרורה, קבל רינת עמך, סגבנו, טהרנו, נורא. ענה וכוח וכוח, גדולת ימינך, ימינך, תתיר צרורה, קבל רינת עמך, סגבנו, טהרנו, נורא. L'chadami, page 316. Sing along, everybody. L'chadami, ein, 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 likrat Allah. One more time. Lecharoti likrat kala Penei Shabbat nikavela Idai dai dai Shabbat lezachor בדיבורך לשמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד שמותי ערב ולתהילה לך רותי ני 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 לקראת מעלה Shabbat nikavela Idai dai dai likrat Shabbat lechu velecha mekor haberacha meirosh mikerem nesu chasof maaseh b'machshavat tchila lecharoti nai 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 likrat kala penei Shabbat nikavela nai 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 mikdash melech ir melucha kumi tzei מתוך אפיך רב לך שבת מימת הבחמהו יחמול עלייך מלך רותי לקראת קלה Shabbat nikavela Idai dai dai itnari mei יפרקו מלבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי על יד ונשאר והתהלך מקרבו אל נפשי גאה ללך אותי ניי 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 לקראת קלה ניי 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 שבת שבת נקבלה די 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 התעוררי כי באורך קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך חרותי די 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 לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה. Alright, let's move on to לא תבושי. לא תבושי ולא תקני מה תשתוכחי ומה תריבך יחסו אני עמי ונבנתה עירתי לה היה לך אדוני היה לי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה והיו למשיסה שעושי ורחקו כל מבלייך סלייך אלוהיך תמסוס חתן הקלה היה לך אדוני היה לי לקראת קלה היי בני שבת נקבלה ימין ושמאל תפרצי ביד אדוני תריצי על ידיש ופרצי ונשמחה ונגילה היה לך אדוני לך נובדי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה turn around boy ושלום פטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה היה לך אדוני היה לי רק קלה היה פני שבת נקבל one more time היה לך אדוני לי רק קלה בני שבת נקבלה Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, whoever's out there, we hope that you've enjoyed Kabbalat Shabbat tonight. We're now going to hand over to Rabbi Glassman, who's going to give us some words of inspiration. But before we do that, we are going to sing for us all a song of gratitude, of appreciation, that we sing every single week. It's one of our favorites. Sing along. ולזמר לשמך עליון טוב להודות להשם one more time טוב להודות להשם לשם ולזמר לשמך עליון טוב טוב להודות להשם איי איי יעלה בבוקר חסדך להעיר בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות ואמונתך בלילות טוב טוב להודות להשם איי 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 להעיר בבוקר חסדך חסדך להעיר בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות ואמונתך בלילות טוב טוב להודות להשם טוב טוב להודות להשם Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and thank you to you all for joining us tonight. I now hand over to our Chief Minister, Rabbi Glassman.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Hillel and Chazan Brett, for your beautiful words and your inspiring singing. Friends, I wanted to share with you something that's very close to my heart. A lot of us are following what's happening internationally in the United States with the riots that are going on in the wake of a shocking murder, which is being deemed as racist. I say, of course, the word murder because as of yesterday, the charge was escalated to that of murder on a higher degree, and the other 3 officers who were involved and were compliant and complicit have been charged with aiding and abetting a murder. Justice will take its course as it should, and I hope that the justice that is meted out to those 4 people who, once the law is decided, that their actions were utterly and totally reprehensible, and I hope that will send a very clear message to anyone else in a position of power, be it the police or any other context, to not to use that power against others because of the color of their skin or any other reason of that nature. At the same time, we also know from a Jewish perspective that equally reprehensible is the opposite end of the spectrum, the notion of violence, stealing and looting, in other words, non-law abiding citizens taking advantage of a vulnerable situation and a fragile situation, and particularly a volatile situation. They also need to be condemned. Both extremes are categorically rejected by Jewish thinking and Jewish law. The only path that is acceptable is one of peace, which is a peaceful protest, and I applaud the many thousands and thousands in cities across the United States who have peacefully gathered to protest against the atrocities that have occurred and against what so many people believe is a real, not just a perceived, but a real problem of systemic racism within the United States, and one that has tragically been intergenerational. One understands the hurt and the suffering that is experienced by the African American community and anyone really who has a heart and who understands the inequality that has occurred in that country. And indeed, it's tragically an inequality that expresses itself and manifests itself in many countries in the Western world, each in its own individual context. We have just emerged from the festival of Shavuot. Shavuot is a festival in which the Jewish people gather together around the mountain, each person with his or her own different views, different dispositions. And what the Torah teaches us is that the Jewish people, Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Ahar, that the people camped there opposite the mountain. And the word Vayichan, and they camped, is written in singular form. Instead of saying the plural, they camped, it says Vayichan, which implies that he camped, one person. Why were the entire nation referred to as one person? Because it's defined as Ki'ish Echad B'Lev Echad. They were disparate individuals, but they were camped there as one person with one heart. In other words, there was a sense of peace and unity. The Jewish people's struggles against slavery and tyranny took their toll. There's no question about it. But the critical focus that emerged from that is that the way out was always to be done in a peaceful way and in a united way. And I believe that this is the call today of our generation, if we were to apply that theme to what's going on in the United States. It's such a deeply emotive and raw issue. And unfortunately, when emotions are raw, people often seek to take the law into their own hands on whatever level. Taking the law into one's own hands, whether it's by the rioters and the looters who are causing damage to property of innocent people, or the opposite extreme, which were the police people who used their position of power and authority to inflict suffering, pain, and death on a defenseless individual, at this stage perceived to be because of the color of his skin, they are both utterly reprehensible. And the only path that can affect proper change is peaceful protest and peaceful working through it. I believe personally that successive governments, this is not about Republicans or Democrats, it's not about any individual person, it's about successive governments have failed to hear that message, because George Floyd's story is not an isolated case. It follows dozens of cases of this type of persecution, and therefore it reflects a systemic issue and a systemic problem that's going on in the United States and has been for many, many years. The change has to be a cultural one. It has to be done in a peaceful way. I so fervently understand and appreciate the frustrations and the anger of people, and I think that it behoves the government of the day to listen to the people at state level and at federal level to actually legislate change, not only in legislation, but in culture. It has to start from the top down and also work across at a grassroots level. That, I believe, is a Jewish approach to this affair, and it's such a deeply saddening thing, certainly not one we want to think about when we're entering into the serenity of the Shabbat, but it is a massive elephant in the international room, and it's something that needs to be addressed. And I hope I've been able to share some words with regard to it. On that note, focusing and switching on the positive, I'd like to wish each and every one of you a wonderful Shabbat. The doors of our shul, thankfully, are now open, albeit with restrictions in terms of numbers and ages. We're delighted to be able to have not one, not two, but 3 smachot in shul this Shabbat, each in a separate service of 20 people, each in a separate area of the shul precinct. We are blessed to have that space to be able to do it. And I hope that we can continue many more smachot in the shul, and with increased numbers where it's safe for everyone to be able to attend together, ki ish echad belev echad, as one person with one heart. With that, I wish all of you a wonderful Shabbat.